Magandang hapon mga kababayan. Welcome to our program and let's get right to it. As you know, President Trump's January 25th executive order directs the Department of Homeland Security to dramatically expand the use of expedited removal. We now have more information on that expansion from a recent memorandum from the DHS Secretary John Kelly. We begin our program today with immigration updates with Reeves, Miller, Zhang and Diza law firm to discuss expedited removal here on Kababayan today.
This immigration update is brought to you by Reeves, Miller, Zhang and Diza, a professional law corporation.
Hello and welcome to our program. Joining us is attorney Eric Welsh to discuss expedited removal and travel. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so a lot of people are talking in our community and we want to understand what this means, especially in light of what they just came out of, this updated immigration policy.
Sure.
So let's discuss, what is expedited removal?
Well, expedited removal is a process. It was created by Congress in 1996. It's a streamlined removal process. It allows a Homeland Security officer to order somebody removed from the United States without a hearing before a judge, without an appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals, with limited access to an attorney.
Is that legal?
Well, it's legal because Congress said it's legal. So it was passed by federal statute in 1996, but from 1996 until the present day, it's had very, very limited use. And part of that is because you get that response.
Right.
You know?
How can you just remove someone and then just remove them from the country with no hearing?
Right. It seems very, very strange, and it's always been a controversial program because of the limited access to due process.
Right.
So without a hearing before a judge, without an attorney, without access to certain forms of relief. And so it's been very, very limited in its application. The law itself only permits expedited removal for somebody who's arriving at the border without proper documents or with fraudulent documents, or to someone who came to the U.S. without inspection, who came across the border without seeing an agent. But only if that person has not been physically present for more than 2 years. Now, until recently, the law was only being applied at the border or to people who'd been in the U.S. for less than 14 days. Now, the expansion, and this was also within 100 miles of the border, the expansion that we're getting now from President Trump and from the Homeland Security Secretary Kelly is expanded use to anywhere in the U.S., so regardless of the borders, and not just 14 days, but 2 years. So someone's been here for 2 years, they can still be ordered expedited removal or expedited removed, and regardless of where in the U.S. they're caught.
Okay. We're hearing a lot of these stories about ICE coming to people's doorsteps, taking them away, and we are very concerned.
Right.
Should there be cause for concern?
Well, at this point in time, we're still seeing implementation, so we don't know how things are going to be rolled out, what's actually going to happen, but the messages that we're hearing from Washington are not great. So it is time for concern. It is time to be diligent. Of course, anyone who has lawful status should keep proof of their status with them. If anything happens, if they're stopped, if you can prove you're a green card holder, prove you're a citizen, that's going to be very valuable. If you have other kind of temporary permission to be here, you should keep proof of that with you. And if you do not have proof of status, if you don't have those protections, at least have some access to proof that you've been here for at least 2 years. Mm-hmm. That way you can avoid expedited removal.
Okay, so we were talking about how expedited removal is applied. You did go over that. We talked about what people need to do to avoid expedited removal. They should carry all their documents at the same time. But also, what if a person is subjected to expedited removal? What then?
Well, so then your rights are pretty limited, but you always have a right to make a claim for fear, which is a claim for asylum or withholding of removal. And if you make a claim to an officer has to tell you have this right, that you can't go back home because you're afraid, because there are good reasons why you might have left. You can have a review by an immigration officer, an asylum officer, called a credible fear assessment. And if they determine that you do have a fear, a real credible fear of going home, then you could have a full hearing before a judge to apply for asylum and possibly other forms of relief. Also, when you do make that request for credible fear, you can have a lawyer. So at that point, you can have a lawyer present, someone who can help you prepare for that, someone who can be with you while you're being interviewed.
Okay. Now, a lot of people are traveling. Spring break is coming up. we want to understand, does this affect domestic travel as well? If we want to just go to New York,
right.
Is this cause for concern as well if you're just traveling domestically? Because I know all you would need usually is a form of ID. Is that still the case?
Well, to travel, that's true. So domestic travel, you just need some form of identification for TSA, for the security agency that lets people on and off the planes. But now in this new environment with expanded enforcement, where we're getting messages from the president and from Homeland Security about basically maximizing the use of immigration enforcement, we should be concerned. And we did hear recently, not too long ago, in the last couple of weeks, there was a plane stopped in JFK in New York where immigration agents were looking for one individual who had a prior deportation order, but they were asking everyone getting off of the plane for proof of status. You know, so that's something that's a little disconcerting and not really something that we're used to. But this is a time when we should have, I think, heightened concern.
Okay. Attorney Welsh, can you give us solutions for Kababayans that are watching that may find themselves in this predicament where there might be proceedings of expedited removal on a loved one, a family member, someone that they know? What advice can you give?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, you want to act very, very quickly. So expedited removal happens in a very, very short time frame. We're talking about a potential single DHS officer who acts as the police, the judge, and the prosecutor. So they're just making decisions, and this can happen in a matter of days. Get a hold of an attorney right away. You can get a lawyer who can challenge the order if there is a way to challenge it, someone's not actually subject to that removal, or to help them with a credible fear assessment to make a claim to asylum or withholding of removal. Or you might be someone who has other forms of relief that maybe you haven't addressed or really explored. You might be eligible for some other type of visa, some permanent protection based on family relationships that even now, before you find yourself in that very unfortunate predicament, you might be able to solve your immigration problem.
Attorney Welsh, thank you so much for being here in behalf of Reeves, Miller, Zhang, and Diza.
Thank you.
All right, magbabalik kami dito sa ating programa. Mga kababayan, make sure to give them a call if you have any questions. They are taking consultations, 1-800-795-8009.